In this video, we are going to talk about what was covered on week 4 for the citizenship classes. For citizenship classes, we were discussing the Constitution. Introduction. We call the Constitution a living document. That means that it changes as the country changes. The original document was written at the Constitutional Convention in 1787. Then the country added amendments. More amendments might be added in the future. This session on writing the Constitution will teach you the answers to some of the questions for your quiz. First, we're gonna watch this video, the second and third video, and then we're gonna answer the questions that referred to the Constitution.
When was the Constitution written? The Constitution was written in 1787. The American Army won the War of Independence in 1783. For several years, the U.S. was governed by a Congress of Representatives from the states. But in 1787, delegates for the states met in Philadelphia to create a stronger federal government. They wrote the Constitution that gave the framework for the government we have today. The Constitution was written in 1787.
Now we are going to watch a video about the Constitutional Convention.
What happened at the Constitutional Convention? The Constitution was written at the Constitutional Convention. In 1787, 55 representatives went to Philadelphia. They came from 12 of the 13 original states. They talked about how to design the government. They wrote the Constitution. After the Constitutional Convention, the states agreed to adopt the Constitution.
And finally, we are going to talk about the Federalist Papers.
The Federalist Papers supported the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Name one of the writers. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay wrote the Federalist Papers. The U.S. Constitution was written at the Constitutional Convention in 1787. People at the Constitutional Convention decided how the government should work. Then, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay wrote the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers explained the new government. They said that the new United States needed the Constitution. Newspapers all over the United States published the Federalist Papers.
Okay, so let's go over what we learned. We learned about the Constitution. The Constitution was written after the colonies won the Revolutionary War. Remember, there were 13 states, and before the Constitution was written, there were 13 separate governments. With the Constitution, it was possible to have one strong federal government. And that's why the representatives met at the Constitutional Convention. They met in 1787. The Constitution is the highest law in the United States, is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution sets up the government of the United States. It established 3 branches of government: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The Constitution defines the power of the national government and the powers of the state government, and it protects the basic rights of Americans. This is the Constitution, a picture of the Constitution. Now we're gonna go over the questions they might ask you about the Constitution. What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. What does the Constitution do? You only need to answer one of these 3 answers. You could say set up the government, defines the government, or protect basic rights of Americans. The idea of self-government is in the first 3 words of the Constitution. What are these words? We the people. We the people, 3 words. What happened at the Constitutional Convention? The Constitution was written. The founding fathers wrote the Constitution. You only need to choose one of these answers. When was the Constitution written? In 1787. The Federalist Papers. We already watched a short video about the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers were some essays that supported the passage of the Constitution. Some people were not interested in having a strong national government, and that's why the Federalist Papers were written to explain to people what the Constitution meant. Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay wrote the Federalist Papers, but they didn't give their names as the writers of the essays. The name of the writer on every one of the Federalist Papers is Publius. The Federalist Papers supported the passage of the US Constitution. Name one of the writers. You only need to say one. You can say James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, or Publius. Now we are going to talk about Benjamin Franklin. Why do we need to talk about Benjamin Franklin? Because Benjamin Franklin was the oldest representative in the Constitutional Convention. Benjamin Franklin was famous for many things. He was a founding father. He was the oldest member of the Constitutional Convention. He was a US diplomat. He was the ambassador to France from 1776 to 1785. He was an inventor. He invented the lightning rod, the Franklin stove, and bifocals, eyeglasses with 2 kinds of lenses to help people see near and far. He was the first Postmaster General of the United States. He figured out routes for delivering the mail. He started the first free libraries in America. And for many years, he was the writer of a popular yearbook called Poor Richard's Almanac. For your quiz, they're gonna ask you, what is one thing Benjamin Franklin is famous for? You can choose one of the answers. He was a US diplomat, the oldest member of the Constitutional Convention, the first Postmaster General of the United States, the writer of Poor Richard's Almanac, or he started the first free libraries. Now we are going to talk about the Bill of Rights. This is the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. As we just learned, the Constitution gave and sets up the government. At the beginning, the Constitution didn't mention the basic rights of Americans, and that's why these amendments were added to the Constitution to provide rights to Americans. The people of the United States can change the Constitution. A change to the Constitution is an amendment. An amendment is an addition to the Constitution. The Constitution has 27 amendments. We call the first 10 amendments the Bill of Rights. These 10 amendments were added to the Constitution in 1791. The Bill of Rights protects the basic rights of Americans. The rights of citizens and non-citizens are guaranteed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech. It guarantees freedom of the press. It guarantees freedom of religion. It guarantees freedom of assembly. It guarantees the right to petition the government. Other amendments in the Bill of Rights guarantee the rights of people who are accused of crimes. They have the right to go to court, have a lawyer, and have a fair and quick trial. The Bill of Rights also protects people in their homes. The police need a special document from the court before they can go into a person's home. These are the questions referring to the Bill of Rights and the amendments to the Constitution. What is an amendment? A change to the Constitution, an addition to the Constitution. You only need to say one of these answers. What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? The Bill of Rights. What is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? You only need to say one of these. Speech, religion, assembly, press, petition the government. How many amendments does the Constitution have? 27. What is freedom of religion? You can practice any religion or not practice a religion. And for our final topic on the civics portion, we are going to talk about George Washington. George Washington was the leader of the colonial army during the Revolutionary War. He was an excellent leader. The American people respected him very much. In 1787, George Washington was the leader of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. At this meeting, the representatives wrote the Constitution. In 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States. He served 2 terms. George Washington is one of the most important leaders in American history. His picture is on the dollar bill. Americans call George Washington the father of our country. Who is the father of our country? George Washington. Who was the first president? George Washington. So for this video, remember, we just covered the Constitution, the amendments to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, Benjamin Franklin, and Washington.